Thank you everybody for tuning in to the Boomer Talk podcast. My name is Jordan. You might know me as One Up Analytics. My co-host is Taylor, aka Somebody's Gun. And our guest this week is a return guest, actually. I think the first three-time guest, professional
Yep.
boomer, BELAEU. Thanks for coming back.
It's nice to be here.
All right, so today is a little bit of a unique episode. We're going to go through the new competitive update that Epic released today. Basically, we're just going to go through each change, each update one by one, talk about our thoughts on each one, and then after that, I'm not sure if we have some callers lined up. Some people might have flaked, but if not, anybody in chat, if you want to call in, you could call in, talk to us, ask any questions, or just ask questions right from chat. But anyway, yeah, let's get right into it. Taylor, you got the list of competitive changes?
Yes, sir. I'll take us away. So obviously we got the hype leaderboard. I don't really think that needs much discussion, but we'll go straight into the tournament schedule. So hype cups, cool, whatever. Then we have DreamHack, and then we have solo cash cups on Monday for the first time. Then we have trio cash cups, both contender and champs on Tuesdays. Wild Wednesdays, which are going to be some LTM based modes. Who knows what the heck that'll turn out to be? We got some more DreamHack stuff, an FNCS warm up, and in the beginning of October, we're going to be rolling out the FNCS for this season. So that's the major piece, is the schedule. I guess we'll start out with.
All right. The first thing that I'm not sure if people have mentioned is the schedule for the cash cups only have 2 weeks worth of cash cups for each tournament. I don't know if that's a typo on Epic's part. I don't know if that means like they're gonna change the schedule after 2 weeks or something like that. But there's only 2 weeks of tournaments scheduled so far.
Yeah, I don't think it's final. I don't think the dates are locked in stone. There has to be some change.
Yeah, it'd be very weird for them to do, unless they're going to fill it with a bunch of different creator cups. Like we already know there's Lobetti's cup that's coming in, and maybe they plan on doing like 1 to 2 creator cups a week to fill that gap. And then once FNCS starts, they don't want to have weekly tournaments, which again would be weird and something they haven't done. I'm definitely excited to see what the heck they do for Wild Wednesdays. We saw the free Apple Cup for the first time having like a non-traditional scoring format, and now it's up in the air as to what the heck they're about to do here.
Yeah. I just had a thought in my mind that they could actually maybe run the Monday and Tuesday cash cups for the set dates, and after that look how the like player base reacted to it, and then change back to like Thursday, Friday. Maybe that's a possibility, but I don't know.
Yeah, that could be an interesting piece. They're just kind of testing it to see if are we going to get more players on Monday or Tuesday and then jump on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I personally hope they just stick with one day, because every single time we choose a day for the podcast, they just change tournaments to that day. So we're going to have to wind up moving our schedule again. But yeah, I don't know. I like the LTM Wednesdays. Like, obviously it's very casual based, but like that's just another way to potentially get people interested in like competing through the game, which is cool. I don't know. Yeah, like I think it could be a cool way to just like play with your friends and potentially get them interested in like the competitive scene, which is something that we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real downsides to having like cups in fun modes, like be it creative or LTMs. I don't know. I don't think there's any downside unless they like put all of their money into those cups, which are not like the most competitive cups. That's the only potential issue I see.
Yeah,
Oh, you know, if someone like if they put any money into that, people are gonna be like, "Oh, but we could have had this prize pool for FNCS if they didn't have
yeah,
these
I've already
cups or
seen
these
tweets about
cups."
that. Literally already seen tweets about that. Like, I feel like you have to understand, like, Epic has, I mean, obviously has a lot of money to work with, but it just because they have these LTM cups doesn't mean that that prize pool is directly taking from like competitive FNCS
Yeah.
prize pools. Like they have money that they put into marketing efforts for other parts of the game, and money could be coming from that. Like there's a lot of different places that this money could be coming from, and to like immediately think that it's coming from FNCS prize pool is don't do that.
All right. Well, speaking of FNCS, they did release the dates for that. So it's going to be a 3-week, 3-day event. So each, or I guess 4 weeks technically. There's 3 qualifying weeks. Then you have 3 days for each qualifying week. And then we have our typical heats into grand finals, I would assume. And a little twist, the wild card match. So what do you guys think? Bella?
Uh, I think it's good. I've seen some negative tweets about having opens and semis on like separate days. At least that's the presumed like organization of the cups. But I don't know. I feel like that's good. There should be more games played across one FNCS week now, which is good. I don't think there's any like downsides in that in terms of like the quality gameplay. And otherwise, the wildcard thing, that's great. Like, there's been always room for a wildcard game in almost every game. Or even duos had a like, there could have been two of those wildcard games that qualify one team into the grand finals. Like, that's great. That I like that.
What are you thinking, Jordan?
Did they say how many rounds would be in each week's qualifier?
So the best we have is they're drawing on some learnings from last season's experimental format. The final round of each weekly qualifier will feature the same 33 team group playing over 2 days. And that's all we got. So we don't
Yeah.
know. It might be 2 rounds. Like we could go from opens to these then 33 teams. Not that I think we'll do that, but as far as we're concerned, we don't have much more information.
Yeah, my biggest concern with that is if they if they add additional time to like the qualifiers. Last season the qualifiers were pretty time intensive. I think it was it like 9 hours per day, and
Yeah.
then 18 hours over 2 days. Like that
Yeah.
is kind of insane. If they add additional time onto that, that's like a little absurd. Hopefully, they're just maybe spreading that time out into more days. Like that would be better. Um, but yeah, I guess like we don't really know much about that yet. But the wild card thing, I think, is really awesome. I I know it's like very RNG based to base someone's qualification on a single game on like just whether they win or not. Um, but at the end of the day, it's just like the last qualifier spot. Anybody who really was performing well and was performing at the top of the leaderboards week after week are going to already be qualified for that. Uh, and then like just the excitement of a game where the winner of it is, it's like either win or go home. That's gonna be so awesome. It's gonna be like, I mean, I tweeted about it. It's gonna be like Game 7 overtime, or March Madness, whatever analogy you want to use for it.
Yeah, I'm excited for that because it gives the excitement of making at least that one game count. We've seen tons of tournaments where by the final match, someone's already won. So it's kind of like, who cares about this game? We're playing to see who gets second place. And it loses the excitement that you have in the first few games. But I know this is only a qual for the grand finals. We should see some interesting things, and teams are going to play differently. I'm sure some teams play for placement consistently, but now knowing you have to win the game, let's say that that's what it is. you're now going to see some different play styles coming out of these trios.
Yeah, I think that would also be the first example of a format where kills didn't matter. Or am I wrong about that? Where kills didn't count for any points. Um,
I think in a major tournament, yes.
I wouldn't be. I think the wildcard game could still have kill points.
well, what
We
would
don't
it?
know. We don't know exactly how it's like.
Well, true.
We're
Yeah,
gonna.
but if we're assuming it's just if you win the game, then you qualify. Then
No, no, but I think it's gonna be more complex because it's going to be the wildcard game is gonna be for the teams that didn't qualify from heats to grand finals. So there's gonna be more teams that fill in one lobby, also. So there has to be some tweaking, I guess. Oh well, well if there's 4 heats in trios and 6 trios qualify to is 6 the correct number? I don't know. 8. 8 qualify to grand finals. There's 1 spot left, and from each heat, there's 24 trios that didn't qualify to grand finals. So there's like 4 times 24 trios that are without a spot, and that wildcard team spot will be split for those 96 teams. So it's not gonna be just one game. I don't think so.
I mean, maybe then not all the teams would qualify for the wild card game. Maybe just like the
Maybe.
fringe teams, because the way that's phrased is wild card match. So it makes me feel like it's just one single game. I could obviously be wrong. Like they don't explain it at all. I don't understand why they wouldn't just explain it. They just brought up an entirely new concept and they just didn't say anything about it. But
Sir,
what?
they will share more information, including details and official rules at a later date, as is tradition.
Yeah, but even if it's one match, they could. Let's say there's a team that wins with 3 kills, and there's a team on second place with 15 kills. I would bet that Epic wants to have the team with 15 kills qualify.
I mean, you would think, but it would also be really. I think it would be really cool to have just whoever wins, regardless of how many elims you have, whoever wins the game is the team that qualifies.
Or the vice versa. The team with the most elims qualifies.
Doesn't matter who wins.
Yeah, screw the win. Whoever walks away with the most elims advances. All right. Well, any final thoughts on FNCS? We'll go into some rule clarification here and keep on chugging along.
No.
We'll probably talk more about it at a date in the near future, considering we'll get a whole rules list and see the prize pools and scoring and all that nonsense. Anyway, so this is something personally I've been calling for a long time, because Epic seems to implement bans and warnings, and the only thing we see is a screenshot on Twitter of the player being like, "Oh, I'm banned," and we might or might not have known that it was real or fake, and suddenly the player just isn't playing in the next tournament. Now, they've clarified a couple rules. One is collusion. So they give a few examples of what is collusion, what is not. They identify it's not an exhaustive list, but some things that are not collusion are going to be using the coaching tool, or using coaching through the replay tools, announcing your drop spot on Twitter, aka social media, or not engaging in certain fights. So what is collusion? I think they gave easy examples of stuff that we all know is collusion, so I don't think we necessarily need to go into that. And they're going to continue the 30-day, or any 30-day ban also includes the next FNCS. So that is going to continue as well. What are you guys thinking? Jordan, start us off here, sir.
Taylor, why don't you start us off?
Why do I have to go? I just talked a bunch. All right, here we go. I mean, it's not bad. like we talked about or we're talking about before this, the one thing I would have really liked to see is a clear communication about players dropping in the same POI, in the same 33 man, or I guess for the most part, it's solos, in the same 100-person lobbies, and then being in a call together. And that is one of the glaring omissions from this. And to me, the biggest piece that needed to be clarified, because all of this other stuff is kind of obvious. If you're going to team on someone or you're not going to shoot at one person over another, like that's obvious collusion to me. But then being in a call with someone and then teetering the line of what is collusion or not that entire time is something that definitely needed to be clarified, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look back whether they've said this in a previous competitive post or not. But I feel like they have already said something about being in a call with somebody else in the same game, right? Like isn't that one of the like original rules that you can't have
Yep.
direct communication with somebody that's in the same game as you?
I
I would think
believe
so at
so.
least.
Yeah, it makes sense, but it happens all the time and goes unpunished.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess it's just probably difficult to punish because you can't monitor that type of thing. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like that's just definitely not a gray area. I think people pretty clearly know that's against the rules. I think it's probably just uh, Epic's responsibility at this point to actually follow through on that in whatever way they can. I don't know how hard that is though.
All
Yeah,
right.
I don't think there should be any responsibility placed on the players. Like, unless Epic does anything, like the players can do what they want. Like, there needs to be some cases, like here's how it goes down. If you do this, you get banned, or like warning. I don't know. Epic has to do stuff at this point. It's not about the players knowing or not knowing. I don't know.
Yeah. If you're gonna rely on self-policing, I think we've seen how that's gonna go in this community. So it needs to be from Epic's perspective and not, like you said, based on the players, unless they want to give some players more sway as far as decision making. But I don't think that's happening either.
Yep.
All right, these next few, not in my opinion, as they're pretty straightforward. So we have smurfing or illegal starts. So essentially, you have a bad first two games in a cash cup, hop on your other account, boom. This is now the second time that they've clarified they don't want that happening. So they seem pretty serious about that. The next one's third party software, aimbot, soft aim, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, clarifying you will get banned. We've seen it happen in tournaments and players get banned. This is the interesting one to me, clout farming. To have a $1 billion company specify a rule about clout farming is kind of hilarious to me. Um, and essentially, it's really just saying whether or not you've been banned, and or falsely saying you've been banned or not banned on social media is my understanding of this, because it goes against the spirit of competition and gets in the way of real investigations, quote from the article. So what do you guys think? Jordan, you can't, no ducking this time, you're going first.
No, yeah, I think that's always been a competitive rule. I'm pretty sure, and I think they've actually taken action on people for that in the past, where somebody
Uh,
acts like they got suspended, and then but it's just fake, and then they go on to their account the next day and they actually got suspended because they acted like they did. I think it
well,
hap-
it has that.
I think it happened to unknown like a few months ago,
Didn't he only get a warning?
or maybe it was just a warning, but they have definitely taken some amount of action in the past against that
Yeah.
type of thing.
They have, but it's not been an official rule as far as I know before. And I would say that rule is mostly about limited resources. We don't know how many people the Fortnite competitive team has to like monitor stuff. And I can easily imagine that the type of stuff we have going on like in the Fortnite Twitter, that stuff can be overwhelming sometimes for the limited team. Like if it's like a small 10-man team, how can they possibly monitor through all of that stuff? So it's a good rule because of that.
Yeah, I mean the high profile ones, which sucks, right? Like if you're a big name player, you're so much more likely to deal with any of the rules than any no name player. You know, a no name player just goes through a tournament and does multiple of these things, like even collusion off spawn. It's probably not going to get recognized unless
Yep.
they kill someone who's notable who then goes into replays and then posts it on Twitter. Like that leads me to believe to what Bella just said. I don't know how much they're going to be able to sort through this.
Yep. They need a bigger team. I feel like they just need more resources on their competitive team. That's how it seems like to me. Hard to say.
Yeah. No, like there's no doubt that there's a too low number of employees on the competitive side at Epic. I think like I've looked through this in the past where Epic just has so many fewer competitive employees compared to other like esports developers like Riot Games or whatever. Um, and I mean, yeah, it shows in so many ways. Like they just don't put the emphasis or the priority there.
Yeah. And I actually want to comment on the smurfing and like playing on second account. I feel like it was a massive oversight to not have that banned initially, like from the first Fortnite Cup. Like I don't know how it's been this long until they like officially ban playing on second account. Like it's so stupid. It
Well,
seems
they did
to
it
me.
last
Oh,
season.
yeah, but that also was so damn late. Like oh, I don't know. It's such a massive oversight. I don't know how that's possible, but annoys me.
That was a regular thing. I knew multiple people that would have second accounts, and you know, if
Yep.
they didn't drop a 20 bomb in the first game of a cash cup, just hop on the second account, give it another shot, and then whichever game went better, you play the rest of the tournament out on that. Um, so yeah, that's it's good, obviously overall for the competitive integrity of the game. Slow steps, guys.
Very slow.
A last one, and I intentionally left this out, but technical issues. So they're modifying the rule, which says that they could not restart games. So basically, everything needed to be played as is. They said they're going to change that, especially for like single lobby rounds or tournaments. They now are going to reserve the right, at least from my understanding of this rule, to restart a game given certain circumstances. Now we'll see when the full rules come out, but I see this as a very good thing, depending on how it's implemented. Right? If we are now restarting games every time some one person doesn't get in, and we're sitting here for hours waiting for all 100 players or 99 if we're playing trios just to get into a single game, all right, that's a little ridiculous. But let's say we have a match where players just are frozen, right? And I'm sure we've all been in a game where the whole lobby is just frozen and you can't move, and then there's 3 minutes off the clock, and now you can move again, right? Like that seems to me like an example of a good restart. So I'd be interested to see what you guys think of the restarts, Bella.
Like generally speaking, yeah, that's good that they changed that policy. But since they talk about single lobby events, I can't recall almost. I don't think I can recall any single lobby event where a server like completely crashed. and where restarts should have been in place. I don't think that's happened. The most of the time we have like issues with servers is like in open stages of like DreamHack qualifiers or something like that, and those are so problematic situations. Like, let's say 10,000 people have their like game crash. Like, what do you do in that scenario? Do you extend the cup, or do you add one game to each player, or like how do you fix that?
Time. It seems to be the answer. Is just add. Okay, this game one didn't count. You now have 30 more minutes to play this tournament. Which
Yeah,
I'm
but,
sure One Up could comment that changes everything in a tournament now too.
yep, it does. It like I don't like that way of fixing it, but I don't know.
One Up, you got any thoughts on this?
I don't think so.
You're cracking up over there.
Dude, I can't stop focusing on the fact that your background is just my background.
Well, we're having the podcast together, man. Like, high five.
All right. Is
That's
that
it.
is that the
by
end of the
way.
competitive update?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's is there anybody in chat that wants to call in? You could just hop into I don't know how it actually works, Taylor. They could just hop into the call or whatever. Oh,
Ooh, he left.
I
Yes.
totally didn't do that on purpose.
if not, then we still have
Going.
a couple questions from people who were going to call in and then wound up not being able to do it.
Yeah, so if you guys want to join, I'll throw an invite to the server in here. Boom. Join my Discord, and then at the bottom there's Boomer Talk. You can join the check-in. We'll make sure that you can actually speak and everything's all good. Then we'll pull you in. You can ask your question. Feel free to join up if you guys got one.
All right. In the meantime, let's just take one of the questions that somebody was going to call in and ask. What do you think the Fortnite scene will look like in 5 years? Competitive scene.
Do I start? I guess.
Yeah, sure.
I guess I will. I feel like it will mostly be around like what we would consider fun modes at the moment, like creative and like LTMs. I feel like in 5 years that will be the main thing, like box fights or build fights, like some type of like advancement of those, like realistic box fights. I don't know, something like that. I feel like we will sway further from the current battle royale. I feel like that will lose interest at some point, or for them to upkeep the interest, they would have to massively change this game season and season, which has happened so far. But for 5 years, I don't think that they will be able to keep up the interest in the like typical Fortnite game. So I think it will go more into like smaller player modes, box fights, whatever. I don't know.
When do you think that will happen?
Uh, well, we have the Wild Wednesdays, or what's the name? Yeah, Wild
Yeah.
Wednesdays. So if the player base reacts to those events very positively, I feel like Epic could push like actual competitive events in creative and stuff like that in less than a year. But if the like reception is negative, then it will take at least 2 years until we actually see like proper box fight cups and so on.
I think the biggest hurdle to that, I kind of agree with that. I personally would like to see that type of thing happen. I think the biggest hurdle is just people taking those types of tournaments seriously. If nobody ever takes those things seriously, it's going to be hard to like build a scene around those types of tournaments, like box fights or whatever it is. Um, I don't know. I would rather see Fortnite head in that direction rather than just like try to stick with battle royale the entire way through.
I mean, if we talk about like our personal preference, I would love to only have the normal battle royale mode in Fortnite. I dislike the fun modes and creative modes in those competitive sides. I feel like focusing on the basic battle royale mode, you would involve more strategy and more of the aspects that traditional sports see and the more advanced esports see, like League and Dota, whatever, like more strategy and more like team involvement. Like I would like to see Fortnite go in that direction, but so far it hasn't gone in that direction, so I don't think that will happen. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm a big creative truther. I believe that this game will be extended by someone making an awesome map within creative, and then it essentially takes over Fortnite for what it was and what it's going to be. I can't tell you what that is, but I do believe that at some point there's going to be a map created in creative mode that is better than the battle royale mode, and people just enjoy it better. Right now, there's not really the searchability or the ability to hop into random matches at a large scale. You can search whatever the 5 maps they have up, and we've seen Donnie SC has already built his own search hub within Fortnite, so there are options there, and you could. I mean, Donnie made that what months, maybe 6 months ago, that hub, and
Yeah.
you could still probably queue up right now and get a game fairly quickly. So the interest is still there for the smaller modes, and I think it'll probably stay. As far as the main question, I'd like to think that some of the major players, probably more of the younger people, right? Because in 5 years we'll probably all be phased out of this game and doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but you know, the kids that are 14, 15, 16 years old, they may still be playing, and they'll be the boomers of the generation and be able to, I don't know if welcome would be the right word, but tweet at explicits to the 14-year-olds that are now killing them in tournaments.
Yep. And I feel like proof of there being interest for those like smaller game modes, like creative modes, is that they had to add bots into like public game modes. I feel like they had to do that because of like weekend player base. And from what I see, if I check like young players Twitch stream, they are usually in creative with their friends. Like I don't see them playing like public game modes that much anymore. Like so, we don't have the statistics as players, but I feel like Epic does have stats, and they are to some extent trying to test how well they can run like creative events, so they get more kids involved.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the search and destroy tournament's a good example of it. Thousands, tens of thousands. I don't know the numbers, but tons of people played that, and that was only the first step. Now we're going to see them on a weekly basis.
Do you want to go through the next question?
Sure.
I think it was what role does genetics play in competitive Fortnite? And I guess this is just kind of a question we could extrapolate to esports in general. I'm curious to see what Bella thinks about this, like knowing your
Uh,
background.
yeah. So I feel like this question came from my fan base. I'm pretty sure, but I've talked about this stuff on my stream quite a lot, and my take is that in esports, genes play a huge part in like success because there's no like in traditional sports you have upwards to like 15 years of practice before you get to actually make any like money with the like sport you're playing. In this game, you can hop on like instantly. If you're good enough instantly, you can like generate money and succeed. So there's no like requirement to have self-discipline for years on end. So I just feel like genes play the largest part. They create the disposition to learn some skills that are involved in esports, like processing speed, like general intelligence to some extent, and visual motoric, like functioning, all of that stuff. I feel like that mostly comes from genes. Of course, not everyone with good genes is going to succeed, but it is going to be very, very, very difficult to succeed, even with good like ethics and good self-discipline and good self-control, if you have bad genes. So I think the genes are like the most important part. That's my short take, I guess.
Jordan?
That's interesting. Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from in terms of there's just simply not enough time to for someone to just outplay genes with hard work, where as you might be able to do
Yep.
that in traditional sports. Um,
Yep.
the other question that I think is kind of like tangential to this is what is the like prime age for esports players? Because like in sports, your prime age is I don't know anywhere between like 27 and like 31.
Yeah.
And that has to do a lot with your physical development. Um, but obviously in esports, we tend to think it's a lot lower. We tend to like anybody like this podcast is literally called Boomer Talk Podcast for a reason because everybody over 20 is considered a boomer or in some way less mechanically inclined or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously like there's a lot of like psychology that goes into that. I'm sure Bill could talk about that, but um, yeah, I don't know that's just a question that popped into my mind.
Yeah. So there's actually two different like concepts we are talking about in that thing you're talking about. If you say that in traditional sports your prime age is like 26, I would say it's the same. The concept is the same in esports, but the major difference is that a player or a human learns the fastest at a younger age. So the like learning potential is fastest at like I don't know like the exact age, but like ages from like 14 to 18, you have like massive learning advantage compared to 26-year-old. And even in traditional sports, the reason why some leagues and organizations try to push for like young kids to learn some mechanics quick is because it's far easier for them to learn those difficult mechanics in terms of like ice hockey and stuff like that. It's difficult for adults to learn those, but for young kids it's actually easier to learn those. So you have to create the like base at a younger age, and then the prime can like come visible in the later stage. And we would see the exact same thing in esports, but the thing is like I don't think Fortnite will be the same game in 10 years. So you can't really teach
Yeah.
a 14-year-old the base and have him be at the prime of at 26 because the game has changed and so many other things have changed. So because esports is running around like short-lived games that change rapidly, the meta changes like every 6 months, every 1 year or so. You have to be constantly learning, and the learning curve is just so much faster at a younger age. And it's just the same. I would say it's the same in esports and actual sports.
It's very interesting. I've never heard someone break that down from like an educated perspective. It's more just like they're old, they can't move as fast is typically the argument you hear. Um,
Yeah,
and I think another thing that adds to this is up until recently, esports couldn't be a career. So if you
yep,
wanted to make esports a career, you were doing other things. And the people that have the most time are going to be children who are in school and they get home at like 2, 3 o'clock, whatever it may be, and then have the rest of the day to do whatever they want. Most adults, that's not a possibility. You have to work a job or find some way to bring in income. And then also you have other responsibilities besides just work, simply making food, cleaning up after yourself. That takes a chunk out of your day that a lot of kids don't even really have to think about, right? Um,
Yep.
so the time investment for younger kids is huge right now, where I'm interested to see how Valorant turns around, because we're going to have a bunch of kids that were playing CSGO for a while and learning those first person shooter mechanics and how to play a team game like that. They're going to be older. And I don't know a ton about CSGO or even the Valorant scene, but at some point, I'd love to understand how many people that were really good at CSGO that couldn't compete initially became grinders within the game, stuck with it, and then now are competing, whether it be CSGO or Valorant, after having that huge time investment and the ability to improve over a long period of time. But in Fortnite, I don't think it's simply a possibility to
Yeah.
grind forever. You can grind mechanics, but who knows if those are even going to be important, because we just saw them completely change how a shotgun works last season. So
Yep.
I'm thinking it's going to be young forever.
In
Yeah.
Fortnite, most likely, yes. But
Yeah.
back to like, look at CS:GO. Like most of the top pros in CS:GO, like 24 now, and the game has been almost the same for a long time. So you see the like same thing you see in traditional sports there. If a sport is unchanged and you can use grind mechanics and strats and stuff, the older people are at the prime. But you just need time for that, and things need to be stable.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing to look at, like the correlation between how long an esport has been around and like the average age of the pros in that competitive scene.
Yep.
Um, yeah, Valorant though I think is 18 and older, right, for competitive.
Yeah.
So that might be difficult to deal with like those types of factors.
I mean, even still, an 18-year-old to a 25-year-old, that's a pretty large age gap when it comes
It
down
is.
to it. You think like 7 years of someone's life at 25 is a huge chunk.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
But yeah, do we have any questions in chat before we move on from this topic? Anything you guys want to hear us chat about, blabber about? Bella, do you have anything you want to chat about here today?
Uh, Not really. Like we could randomly talk about the new season and small things we would like to see and that we didn't see. But I don't know. Other than that, I don't know.
Thoughts on how average controller player IQ is 96?
Oh, ignore Dish.
uh,
Dish is just a controller hater, and if he's still here, Dish, get over it. Controller players can be good at this game.
Yep.
cheating should be allowed for keyboard and mouse players since controller players storm push.
Oh, that's another Dish comment. If you can't tell, he loves controller players. I mean, I'm cool wrapping it up. We don't have to go for an hour and 20 minutes every time.
All right, I
Yeah.
mean, up to you guys. If anybody in chat wants to ask a question, we'll take it. Otherwise, we could wrap it early.
Make sure you wrap it.
Ooh.
Bella, anything you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I'm trying to think of a topic. I don't know. I don't know how big of a topic this is, but it's weird how Epic designs Fortnite, because they have now shown like almost 2 seasons in a row. Yeah, 2 seasons in a row that they're like completely willing to change the game drastically for their own needs. Like first they removed the bump, and now they changed chest spawn rate. So it's kind of scary. Like listen to that question, what is Fortnite gonna look like in 5 years? It is pretty scary in my opinion. Like they can throw anything out of the game if they want, and I don't like that. And I don't think it's necessarily good game design.
Yeah, the thing about that is I don't even know what is beneficial about 50% chest spawn rate.
So there's one thing that I'm pretty sure is the correct answer. Like in psychology, like gambling, expected outcomes. If you're doing an like action and the outcome is not guaranteed, you have creator like more emotion in that process.
Yeah.
You have feelings of anticipation, and like when the outcome is revealed, you might get a negative or positive reaction, and it is amplified by the like by manipulating the chance of those specific outcomes. So I feel like casual players will be more hooked or like more addicted to the game when like you don't have 100% guaranteed chest. You have always that small anticipation in your brains, like, am I gonna get rewarded or not? I feel like that's the answer here. Like they want to add random variance that provides emotion.
No, yeah, that's definitely, yeah, I've read about that too, and I think wasn't there parents that were suing Epic when Fortnite first came out
Yeah.
because it was too addictive, and that was one of the reasons.
Yep.
Like another thing that would play into that is having a bigger loot pool where like the the thing that you could pull out of a chest is like there's a wider range of things you can pull out of a chest. Like if you know it's just going to be a standard AR pump or an SMG or whatever, it's not as exciting to go for like the next chest. But if there's a wide range of things you can get, like a gold RPG or whatever it is, it's more exciting. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, if that's really the reason they put 50% chest spawn in, that's just
Fucked up.
Yeah.
I would bet money that it's the reason. I would actually bet money on it. I don't think there's. I've been trying to think about it a lot, and that's pretty much the only thing that I can come up with. And the sad thing is that it ignores the competitive side almost completely, because a competitive player does not have that same anticipation towards an outcome when looting a chest. Like we just don't care about that aspect of the game. So it's sad that we're being ignored like this.
It's kind of scary, man. Like all jokes aside, if they're really gaming this like within the game that much to get you hooked and give you those, I don't know. I'll put on my tinfoil hat and talk about the man and all the stuff they're doing. But that's scary. I haven't thought about that, and I take your word for that. It's fucked up. It's just straight fucked up considering that there's a lot of children that play this game, and then just like the loot boxes that EA and whoever else got sued for using, it's essentially a non-monetary gambling sense.
Yeah. And also, like, I feel like there's enough variance in Fortnite already. Like, what I don't understand is why do they have to touch chests? Because there's like no game of like we have 2 games of Fortnite. They are never going to be the same. Like no matter which 2 games you pick, there's plenty of variance enough in the game, and you don't have to touch chest spawn rates. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, Jordan brought up a good point the other day that they probably didn't drop the chest spawn rate because of competitive play. Like it has nothing to do with that.
No.
Because I was thinking, maybe it makes fights happen faster in tournaments, and then they don't care. Like that's not their focus for dropping that. Which I understand, but let's split them up.
Yep. I like also sad thing. I don't want to say this out loud, but I guess I have to accept it. I mean, most likely Epic knows this already, so it's not like I'm revealing anything than that. even if they change the game drastically, such as the chess pawn rate, the games are still going to be equally stacked if there's like stakes on the line. Like, so they could do almost anything to the game, and players would still make the game stacked. And the only thing that would like change kind of is the quality of life for players, and that should be a high focus, but seems like it's not. So I don't know. It opens up the possibility for Epic to do almost anything, and we as players can't really do much about it.
Yeah, it's a known thing. What have players been able to do ever? Like, there's maybe one or two things that they've changed that was based on outcomes, and it, like, just thinking of the mech. If I'm thinking of the mech, people complained about the mech for weeks, and they nerfed it, and it was still ridiculous. And then
Yep.
they nerfed it again, and it was still ridiculous. And no one ever called for a nerf of it. That they just kind of like, oh, let me lower the spawn rate. That's their go-to of fixing something, is lowering the spawn rate
Yeah.
and then finally removing it after it's like, yeah, that doesn't work.
Yep.
Bill, do you think that it would be important to have like an actual players union? Like the FNPPA, in my opinion, hasn't really done much. But if we had a legitimate players association, do you think that that could help in any way?
I'm gonna say no. But that's a difficult topic in itself. Because for an union to be effective, the other party has to give some power to that union. And the issue with FNPPA, to my understanding, is that Epic does not really give any power to players, even the ones in FNPPA. I don't think there's like any power given to them. So, what can you change? Like, if you have no power in the like scene, what can you actually do? So, yeah, it could be good that there would be a union that has power, but I see no way how that could be achieved in in esports in general. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like the power would come from just having a ton of players within the same union and them threatening to stop playing the game. I mean, it would
Nah.
depend. Like, I mean, maybe Epic doesn't even give a shit if Benji, Mongrel, Unknown, whoever it is, leave the game.
Yeah, I don't think they because it's an open esports. I don't think that's a valid argument. Like in LCS in League, they actually have like on like stages. They have to have like 5 players on the stage present to have a game running. But that aspect is not present in Fortnite. You have if Benji, Mongal, Savage, Mitro, all of those kids left, there would still be hundreds of thousands of players left, and realistically, almost nothing would change. So we would have to have like like some sort of league that is more excluded, where players could actually like stop playing, and it would matter. But at the moment, how does it? It doesn't matter if someone doesn't play one game.
And with most unions, right, at least sports wise, if the best players stepped away, they could create some sort of quasi league in the meantime that people would still watch and then bring in revenue. If you walk away from Fortnite, there's no other Fortnite you can go play,
Yeah.
and they're kind of just like, all right, go ahead. You have the ability to play these other games anyway, and no one's stopping you. So I think the gaming industry in itself doesn't lend to players really ever having
Mm-hmm.
leverage unless it's a franchised kind of thing where the teams then have leverage within the system. But within Fortnite, I'm not sure that'll ever make sense.
Yeah.
well,
But in Fortnite, I don't think a union is needed. Like even if we could create the optimal like union, I feel like we could get equally good outcomes if Epic was actually transparent and like spoke with us more. Like they haven't commented at all on the 50% test spawn rate, for example. Like even to have some transparency even in that decision would help a lot. We wouldn't need an union for that to happen.
Yeah. Hey, maybe it's part of the storyline.
Yeah. uh,
All right. Well, on that note, want to wrap it up?
Yes, sir.
All right.
let's do it.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. Um, yeah, it's been a good episode. Had a lot of psychology thanks to Bella. So yeah, thank you for joining again. 3-time guest, hopefully a 4-time guest in the near future. Um,
Hopefully, yeah.
Follow his Twitter, best Lassie EU. It's under his camera right now.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to plug, Bella?
Not really. It's always fun to talk about like theoretical stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, follow the stream. Come back next week. We will have another episode next week. I don't. Is next week? Oh shit! Next week is Cash Cup start, right?
Yeah, so we might have to do
Yeah.
Thursday next week.
Yeah. So we might have to change up the schedule. But follow the Twitter account at Boomer Talk FN. New Twitter account. We'll have updates there. So next week we will have an episode. We're not sure what day it will be. Maybe Thursday. But if you follow the Twitter account that Taylor is spamming in chat right now, you'll know when we're when we're going live. And yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and see you later.
Bye.
Bye.